Welcome, everyone. I appreciate your time. And this is the first in a series of recordings I'll be doing on our YouTube channel for 2023. And we have a newsletter, Feneck Commodities Report, that we've also called our YouTube channel now, Feneck Commodities Report. So we interview CEOs and leaders in the mining space. And with me today is James Anderson, who is CEO and chairman of Guanajuato Silver. The ticker in the U.S. Where we operate is GSVRF, and I'll have some notes in the back of this program if you'd like to contact me further, because we just have a limited amount of time today. Be happy to pass on your information to either James or JJ. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Sean. Good seeing you again.
Thank you. So why don't you give us a 5-minute overview, if you can, just of what's happening right now? I saw the late May news. You may want to talk a little bit about that in terms of your quarterly production. Looked like a record quarter for you.
It was a record quarter. And although we don't necessarily improve production month on month, it's pretty close. And when I share my screen and take you through some of the slides of our presentation, one of, if not the most important slide in that presentation is showing that quarter on quarter growth. And I think when people see that, they understand just how fast the company is moving.
Great.
So maybe I'll do just that.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Is that okay? That sounds dangerous.
Sorry, what was that?
I get a little flash up. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. My apologies. I don't know how to get around that, but for the purpose of today, why don't we just, I've written down everyone's
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, why don't we just wing it? I've got so that I can cheat a little bit and have some notes. I've got the presentation up, but the first few pages are all about the silver market. Why don't we take 30 seconds and talk about that? Silver is a very unique commodity. It's a very unique element. Currently, about 12% of all of the silver that's mined in the world goes into solar panels. And as what makes sense to a lot of people, obviously, we've got a very robust growth in solar panels being manufactured worldwide. There's a lot of research that we study, which would suggest that over the next 3 years, that number is going to go from 12% to 25% of mined silver. So something has to get displaced, and I don't know what that is. But what I think it will have for us is a very robust pricing of silver going forward. And as all of the other industrial metals have come down in price dramatically over the last 3 or 4 months because of some of the Fed's actions and perhaps a slowing economy and less inflation, that has not been the case for silver. It's really maintained itself quite well. So we're very bullish on silver for all of those reasons. And what have we done about it? Well, we have built in a very short period of time what we like to call Mexico's fastest growing silver mining company. Over the last just a little bit more than 24 months, we have purchased 4 mines, 3 production facilities. I'm in one of them right now, John. I'm at the CATA offices at Valenciana in Guanajuato, Mexico. And I'll just this is kind of fun for us. You can see one of the big 18-wheel trucks there. It is now all loaded up with silver and gold concentrate. That truck, they must be having a coffee break because it's just about ready to move out. So that truck, along with one other that was packed up here, will be on its way to Manzanillo, Mexico, where we sell our concentrates. The city of Guanajuato, where I'm at, is a beautiful old colonial city in Mexico. If the folks on the call have not had the opportunity to travel in central Mexico, it's very different than some of the coastal cities where all the tourists go. It's a city of about 200,000 people. It has a 450-year history of silver mining. And in fact, the plant where I'm at is over top of the Valenciana mine complex. That mine complex has been producing silver and gold for 450 years. In the late 1700s, this mine was producing about 25% of the whole world's silver. Now, I don't know whether we're going to be returning to those starry days very soon, But nonetheless, I can tell you that the exploration that we're doing here, the development that we're doing here, it will keep this mine going for years and years and probably decades and centuries. I'm quite sure that my grandchildren will have a chance to work here if they so choose. So from here, there are two other mines that we own in the district. One is El Cubo, which as the crow flies, it's only about 8 kilometers from here. But these are, we are in quite steep rolling hills. As the Mexican road drives, it's probably about 15 kilometers. It's a modern plant. One of the things that I always like to remind people and tell people, we paid $15 million for El Cubo. The last time it changed hands in 2012, Endeavour Silver paid $200 million for it. And you can look at the other major transaction that we did last August, very similar. We end up buying 3 additional mines, 2 production facilities, of which I'm in the offices of one, and we paid $14.7 million for that. So we like to buy things at bargain prices, put them back into production. The only other thing that I would mention, I guess, so most of our operations are in this, in and around this beautiful city of Guanajuato. We also have a mine in Durango, which is, maybe 1,000 kilometers further north. So really a different sort of thing. Basically, we bought the mines here and they threw in the other one for free. It's very high grade. It too has been in production for less time, but for about 70 years. And we mine a slightly different mix of metals there. There, it's really a silver, lead, zinc, gold deposit. If people are keeping track, our revenue is generated about 50% silver, 40% gold, and about 10% combined lead and zinc. I'll just make one more sort of broad point, John, and then maybe we can,
Sure.
you can ask a few questions. We'll open it up a little bit. Every CEO in the world likes to talk about their outstanding team. I can tell you, we now have about 1,400 people working for us in Mexico. The team here in Mexico is 100% Mexican. A lot of the expat American, Canadian, Australian, British companies who come here to mine bring their own management teams. We view that as not the best solution. The people who are running the operations here are very experienced and very motivated. The team that we have in Mexico, our CFO, Lisa Day, JJ Jennings, who you know, our Gerente de Comunicaciones. It is a very motivated team. It's a team that has a lot of fun. However, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Ramon Davila. He's our president and in charge of all Mexican operations. Ramon he's the best miner in Mexico. And it is a bold statement, I know, but when you look at his CV, he has had enormous success everywhere he goes, including with Peñoles, which is Mexico's largest mining company. He then went on to a career at Luis Min, which was subsequently bought out by Silver Wheaton, and then subsequently by Goldcorp. Went off on his own. He bought the La Colorada mine. He sold that to Pan American Silver, and worked with Pan American, worked with Ross Beatty at Pan American for 5 years. That mine continues to be Pan American's best mine. The company has a multi-billion-dollar market cap now. And then Ramon went on to be one of the founders of First Majestic as chief operating officer. When he started with them, they had 4 employees, and when he left, they had 4,000. When he started, they had no production of silver and gold. When he left, they had 12 million silver equivalent ounces of production per year. He then went on to have a political career. He became the economy minister for the state of Durango, where he lives. So I like to spend some time telling people about Ramon's contributions, because Ramon's a huge part of what we do. He's enormously respected in every amongst the miners, amongst the politicians, and amongst the community here. So
yeah. I met Ramon at PDAC, and that was in March in Toronto. I was very impressed with his background, as you pointed out. And but rather than me going to Q&A, because we went a little overtime there, let me just summarize kind of what you said, along with a couple of other items, if I may. So You
Sure.
know,
Before you go on though, I remember distinctly our meeting at PDAC, and there were a few of your investors with us, and I remember one of them who apparently had a big position early in First
Mhm.
Majestic and thought the
Right.
world of Ramon. If anybody thinks I gush a little bit too much about Ramon, you should have heard this chap.
Right, that's true. He has been a shareholder of First Majestic AG for 12 years, so he's known Ramon a long time. And that's one of the so guys and ladies, if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the group chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question of James or myself, and happy to answer.
Hi, James. There was a lot of talk of First Majestic, which I found interesting. I looked on the website and y'all are running a bullion store. Funny enough, it seems like First Majestic is the only other silver miner also running a bullion store. So could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if there's much to elaborate about. They say copying is the most sincere form of flattery. As we speak, right, there's certainly no direct connection between that company and ours. But if you look at their bullion store, they do millions and millions of dollars in it. And Keith Neumeyer set that up years and years ago. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea for the promotion of the company and for people to be able to appreciate silver coins and silver bars, and to be able to purchase them directly from a silver mining company. I guess the only other thing that I would say is that our coins are much more beautiful than First Majestic. So if anybody wants to buy a silver coin, they should go to our site.
Very cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for any questions of James? Okay, so I see a couple here in the chat room, James. First off, how have you improved the GPL asset that Great Panther obviously struggled with?
I see, at least I hear maybe I'm responsible for some background noise there. That big truck is off to Manzanillo. Yeah, okay, well, so the GPL asset, I mean, really it's three assets, right? So it is the Valenciana Mines Complex, which is where I'm at right now. It's San Ignacio, which is a mine which never had a production facility to the west of us. We truck, just as Great Panther did for many years, we truck that material here for processing. And then it's Topia. And well, what I'm about to say, I've got a longer story that I can, embellish a little bit more, but I think for these purposes, I'm going to keep it very, very tight. At Topia, which is a really great example, the senior staff from Great Panther, when we bought it, they never went there. And I mean never. And I mean never. Well, you can't run a mining operation remotely, right? So, have we made significant improvements to the way that the mine is being run? Yes, absolutely. Here at Valenciana, and a slightly different situation, but I mean, this mine has been underinvested in, not only under Great Panther, but since the 1930s, when a local cooperative called the Cooperativa ran it, and they ran it in a very old school kind of Mexican fashion. They mined whatever was in front of them. They didn't worry very much about exploration and development. And if you ran out of ore, well, c'est la vie, but maybe you go somewhere else in the mine. This is one of the great silver mines of human history. It has been in production almost nonstop for 450 years. So the care and expense that we're taking right now to make this a better operation, I'm very confident that our team and the dedication of money and assets to these operations will make these better mining assets.
Thank you. I recognize you asked that question. So I was actually with Don Durrett this weekend, who's written 14 books on gold and silver. Many of you guys may know him from Seeking Alpha, but I asked him what his opinion was of your company, and he said that Guanajuato, in his view, is quote unquote, just he sees it very difficult that they wouldn't succeed at this price point. So he's very bullish the stock, and thanks for the question. So moving on, we have another one here. What about acquisitions in the near future?
Well, we've been pretty aggressive, right? With you know, acquiring 4 mines and 3 production facilities in just a little over 24 months.
Right.
That's not going to change anytime soon. The company has to get bigger. The world that we live in does not enjoy small mining companies. There's so many things that every level of regulator, and I'm talking about environmental regulators, financial regulators, auditors, everybody wants to be able to control these public companies. And we need to be of a size that we can create enough revenue to be able to justify that. Small mine, you know, I'm old enough to be able to remember when small mining companies could exist and exist profitably. I think it's much more difficult now. So we will be growing. Ramon and I have lots of ideas. I don't want anyone to confuse that with plans. There's ideas and then there's plans. So you know, I wouldn't expect anything right away, but certainly philosophically, yeah, we want to get bigger, and we want to get bigger in central Mexico.
Okay, great. We have 2 questions around the union issues and strikes and labor relations. And can you kind of talk to that, because there's a lot in the news, obviously?
Yeah, and a lot in the news, in case somebody might have missed that. Penasquito, which is one of Mexico's largest mines, further north than where we are. They have a labor union, and they have some disputes with their labor union, and that mine, as of about 3 or 4 days ago, is closed and on strike. I think, you know, maybe on a more general level, on a more general basis, I mean, I think with the inflationary pressures that we see around the world, you are going to see more militant labor actions everywhere. We do have a labor union in place at one of our mines, and that's El Cubo. They've been there, you know, forever and ever and ever. You know, and is it a good situation? Well, you know, it is what it is. How do we manage that? And I think, you know, we manage it best because of our 100% Mexican team. So when our people meet with the local labor union, it is unhelpful to have a guy named James Anderson from Canada at the table. So to the very best that I can, I stay out of those discussions, and it's handled far, far better by people on the ground here and people from Mexico.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And for those of you that are wondering about Penasquito, that's a Newmont mine, but you know, NEM is so large that you haven't really seen too much of a change in the share price since that announcement was made a few days ago. See if there's anything else here. Can you just talk a little bit generally about exploration, you know, in terms of your growth strategy? I know that your May news talked about 4.6 to 4.8 million ounces of silver as your full year guidance, correct? So how do you plan to get there?
Well, how do we plan to get there? By that ramped up quarter on quarter growth, because the last several quarters we've had 16% growth quarter over quarter, and you know, God willing, I don't have anything wooden around to knock on, but God willing, I think we will get there. In terms of exploration, though, so that's a little bit different. So let me comment on that for a second. All of the mines that we have are narrow veined epithermal systems. They're high grade. It is difficult to drill these sort of systems off in a manner where you're going to have 10 or 12 years in front of you. And there are some people in the mining industry that looks at that and they go, well, you've got a small resource base to deal with. My answer to that generally is, well, that's true, but these mines have been in production, anywhere from 70 years to 450 years. So I think that I can say categorically that so long as we continue to invest in exploration, we're not going to run out of material anytime soon. We announced that we're doing we have planned to do a $5 million exploration budget this year. We've got 3 drill rigs turning at Topia right now. These are 3 small drill rigs that we own, and they stay out in front of the mining, make sure we know where we're going, and we're stepping ahead of that and doing additional exploration on other vein systems and other structures. We've got 1 drill which we contract here in Guanajuato, which has been running for some time. You will have seen a bunch of our exploration results from San Ignacio, some of which are excellent. We've got about a 5-meter true width of 1.2 kilos of silver equivalent. That is a fantastic drill result for San Ignacio.
Sure.
We released that several months ago. That drill has moved now to Valenciana, where I am, and it will continue. We'd like to do more, right? I mean, we've got lots of targets, and I am an explorationist at heart. We would like to drill more, but there are funding requirements too. All of the mines that we bought them real cheap, but they are fixer-uppers. We need to spend considerable capital as we go forward on all kinds of different capex to be able to make sure that these mines are safe and productive for years to come. Let me make one more point about exploration. I always talk about, Ramon and everybody else in our team. Sometimes I give short shrift to our leader of exploration, whose name is Ronaldo Rivera. Ronaldo spent 10 years as the head of exploration for Goldcorp in Mexico. He's used to dealing with much larger budgets than I'm able to hand him right now. But Ronaldo is very passionate. He is a geologist, loves these systems, and he's obviously an important part of the whole infrastructure of the company.
That's a good point. Thanks for talking a little bit about the exploration side, James. And in wrapping up, is there anything else you'd like to share? Obviously the share price has gone down with the entire, silver equity complex. The month of May was pretty brutal. June hasn't been much better. We'll probably get some direction out of the Fed tomorrow, which I think is a potential bullish opportunity, given that your stock topped out at around 49 cents US and is trading as we speak at 29 cents US. So I always like to kind of benchmark things during recordings like this, because I think this is an opportune time to look at the stock. And I know you're biased, but any last thoughts?
Well, I'll try and keep some of my intrinsic Guanajuato silver bias out of it. I appreciate you mentioning that the stock has sold off with the market. I look at Endeavour Silver's price a lot, and if you divide by 10 the price, our stock has been exactly the same price several months as it went up and then all the way back down. It's a perfect 1-for-1 correlation. The stock market, it never ceases to amaze me that smarter people than me have said it, but it's the only thing around when it's on sale, nobody wants to buy, right? And I can't explain really this latest backdraft in the precious metals stocks, and especially the silver stocks. They've always got a little more beta, right? I can't really explain it because the metals, and especially silver, have been really quite strong. So I don't know. I think that we'll look back, and not just at Guanajuato silver, but at other stocks that are similar, and say, wow, what a great buying opportunity this was.
Yeah, I fully agree. We're value managers at Feneck Consulting. We've been doing it 7.5 years. I've built, the track record around buying things cheap and selling at higher prices. I know that sounds logical, but I think so many people in the summer of 2020, for example, we're just throwing money at anything with the word silver or gold in it. And now they're holding the bag, so to speak, right? They're holding a bunch of companies that may not be really what they imagined, 3 years ago, right? Because it was kind of a euphoric time. But I think now we're entering a period of really interesting period where gold is not giving back anything really here. Holding 1900 is insane, given you've got a higher US dollar. You've got AI and tech having their best years in over a decade as we speak. There's a lot of different things happening globally that would be probably negative for gold and silver, yet they both held up relatively well here. And I think that's, what I talk to my followers and clients a lot about, James, is that, you have to watch the big names, but also the small names will follow suit. So big names like Newmont and Agnico can start getting some capital, which I think they will in the coming 6 months or so. Then that's your indication to start looking at, much more, diligently at companies like yours because that the juniors typically follow the majors.
Well, if you'll allow me, John, let me make one more comment specifically about Guanajuato silver. So, we were talking before, let's say with the last 3 or 4 months and the backdraft that we've had. If you look at our share price over the last 2 or 3 years and compare it against any reasonable comparable in our space, Guanajuato silver has outperformed. There's a dollar invested in Guanajuato silver from 2 years ago or 3 years ago is way better than in just about any of the other juniors, than just about any of the even the more senior stocks in our space. So I'm very proud of that, and I do believe that can continue into the future.
That's great. Well, I always like your bullishness, James, but also that you're grounded and you're hardworking, and I think very highly of you and the company that you built and the team you have. So just in closing, this is our 3rd largest silver holding for those of you that don't know us very well on the call here, and we continue to add to the position on weakness. So James, thanks again for the time today, and we'll wrap it here, but if I get additional questions, happy to pass them on to you and your team. Sounds good. Those are very kind words, John. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks for the time, everyone. And we'll have some follow up here. John F at feneckconsulting.com is my direct email if any of you want to hit me up. And thanks again. Have a nice day.